Okay, let me start with the story of Bangladesh by itself. Amar Shonar Bangla, Ami Tomaye Bhalobashi. In 1971, 16th of December, I was a prisoner of war and in a camp. And this is something which I've never told before, and I was waiting for this 50th year, frankly. So on that day, on the 16th of December, the commander comes up and tells us, and we used to listen to the radio, and these were all hidden radios, and they knew that it was somewhere, and we knew it. So we came out, the moment the document was signed, we came out and we said, Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu. Obviously, all of us came out. And this commander comes up and says, that you're not going to live too long. This country is not going to survive for too long. And even then, when people were coming up, and which Sharif was also highlighting, even at that particular point in time, when Bangladesh was the worst possible country on earth in terms of economic growth and all that, we did come up and say, Amar Shonar Bangla, Ami Tomaye Bhalobashi. This is something all of us must remember. This is where the journey starts. The journey starts from within. Not by what people are thinking about us, no. But what we think about ourselves. And I've been asking myself, and I'll ask all of us, and people up here, sitting, a question. Was it by chance that the British entered the Indian subcontinent through Bangladesh or Bengal? Why was Bengal divided? Wasn't Bengal the most, economically prosperous place in this particular part of the world? Is it by chance that BRAC became or is the largest NGO in the world? Is it by chance that people still would like to prefer a country like ours to even lead the peacekeeping forces? These are questions that I'm asking all of us. And then, of course, start with this panel. And this panel comprises of people who are leading this nation. I have a representative here who leads a bank which has been in this country for over 100 years. So did they come here just for what? Because we were useless? No, this is a valid question that we need to ask ourselves. I have another representative who loves calling himself a salesman selling juta. But of course, we forget the importance of juta in the history of civilization. And I've got another individual whose company has grown over the years to the extent that a minute ago I was listening to Nasim sitting next to me that we have to think in terms of which particular area you're not into. And these are the individuals that are representing us today. So thank you very much for being with us. And I'm sure you'll be enlightening all of us with your knowledge. And also share your thoughts in terms of how Bangladesh can perform better. But before we move into that, Nasim, you're sitting next to me, I would ask you a question. What is your perception of this country called Bangladesh? Because I think that until unless we set that particular, we know where we are, the foundation, there's no use discussing Bangladesh.
Thank you, sir. And thank you to Brand Forum for inviting me to this panel today. It's a privilege to be seated here with such distinguished fellow panelists and in the presence, of course, Professor Ferhat Anwar in front of this amazing audience. The question is that what is my perception of Bangladesh? I think my perception of Bangladesh is a country that has an unbelievable can-do spirit. And I think if I had to think of a tagline for Bangladesh, that would be my tagline. That this is the country where we make it happen, where you can do it. I was listening to the story of Sharif and Jack Trout, and once again I'm delighted that these so-called pundits, many of them that come from the so-called developed north, get it completely wrong. I think Bangladesh is a great example of listening to a lot of people, but then finding our own way. It may be chaotic, it may be a little confusing, it's certainly quite stressful, but it gets us to where we want to go. For sure, the aspirations are much higher as they should be. But for me, sir, if I had to summarize it, it's a country which has proven the naysayers wrong and continues to confound many people. But it's also a country which, as one US ambassador who had served here had said to me, it's a country that has hustle. And I don't mean that in a negative sense, it's in a positive sense. My friend Sunny has been to many more countries than I, and I've been to a few. And I can tell you, the ones that I've been to, you don't see this energy on the streets, in the villages, and in the towns, and in the districts. Nobody's sitting still. Nobody's waiting for a handout because there are no handouts. Everybody is trying to get ahead. Sometimes in a great way, sometimes in a not so great way. But that's a certain spirit. It's an entrepreneurial country by birth, by nature. And I think to the point that today the narrative that Professor Ferhat Anwar shared with us, I think the fact that we are sitting here today as proud Bangladeshi corporates, as major multinational bank operating in Bangladesh for more than 100 years, I'm proud to represent a chamber of commerce that has been around for more than 110 years. This country has a tradition of making things. And if I had to brand it, I would say build it in Bangladesh. And that would be my tagline for Bangladesh, that this is a country that builds things. And we have proven time and time again that this is the destination. If ever there was a time, I think the time is now. Thank you, sir.
Excellent. I mean, excellent. This is exactly what we, all of us, must understand. And again, we have this, as I was saying, his father actually started the business. And if I remember very clearly, it was called Rangpur Foundry, is something which I even visited then to see what he was doing. Imagine the point that Nasim was mentioning, entrepreneurial ability. Today, his company, as we were saying, has become a global player, not just a local player, is a global player. Picking up from where Nasim was saying, could you tell me in terms of, do you really believe that this entrepreneurial ability is something embedded in us, in our DNA, or is something which is just by chance?
Thank you, sir. Before I start, thanks to Band Forum. I think it's a great dialogue that has started. How do we go about developing a brand for Bangladesh? I think it's a great initiative and we are talking about it. I think what makes Bangladesh very unique is Bangladesh itself. You know, the odds of Bangladesh makes Bangladesh extremely unique. I think it's the necessity of surviving in Bangladesh probably really pushes us so hard that we become the best entrepreneurs in the world. I feel that, like I do a lot of business with retailers all over the world. And I feel that if you look at a life of a retailer, or look at a life of a small business person in the rural area of this country, I feel that overall situation of Bangladesh is so tough that it is the spirit to survive that makes Bangladesh extremely unique. And I feel that we take lesson, we the corporate sector of the country, take lesson from small entrepreneur in the small rural part of the country, and it's the same people. Like I said, only the time has changed, the roles have become different, some people have become from small to big, but I think the basic instinct of survival, that there is nothing that can save Bangladesh. It's only the Bangladeshis itself that can really, really push us to go forward. We don't have any natural resource. We don't have any thing that we can sell for ourselves. It's only us. It's the people. It's the spirit of the people and the strength of the people and the hardworking nature of the people that really, really takes Bangladesh forward and that really, really makes us very, very successful.
Yeah, people. Such an important point that has been made. And we, time and again, every single day I hear that our people are the worst in the world. And here we are listening to a different story altogether. That how people have kept this country alive and we're moving forward. But let's look at from a multinational perspective. And they've been here for more than 100 years, as we said. And we know that time and again, people do come up and talk about the multinationals do come up and say that we've not been handling them the way we should. I mean, this is a story that we hear day in and day out. So let's listen from you, Naser. What is your sort of an opinion? What have we done right? And what should you think Bangladesh should be applauded for?
Thank you, sir. Firstly, I think Bangladesh has a story which is grossly undersold in the world. As you mentioned, that as I represent a multinational bank which has been in this market for more than 100 years, to be precise, 116 years. In our group, we believe that this is actually, Bangladesh is a best kept secret in Asia, a potential which is waiting to be unlocked. Now, why am I saying this? One of the reasons that, some of the explanation of why the country has grown the way it has grown is still a mystery for many outside the country. So from that perspective, I can share our experience as a bank back in 2000 when there are concerns on the future growth potential based on multi-fiber agreement being phasing out and all those. Many in the financial sector, foreign investors were thinking of an exit route. And so was in the banking sector. We've seen banks like ANZ Greenlays pulling out of the market, banks like American Express pulling out of the market. But we, as a bank, thought that the potential was actually significant, and we stuck to it. And we acquired both the entities, and we saw how it paid off for the country, for the bank, to be very precise. So I think the potential, it's always about glass half full or glass half empty. We always saw the potential is significantly more than what we have seen so far.
So this is well said. I mean, potential is even more than what they've seen so far. So that is what the future is being portrayed by a banker, a multinational banker, of course. Again, going back to our large entrepreneur, because I would like to go back to you. The reason is very simple. We were talking about 2041. We were talking about even 2100, the Delta Plan and all that stuff. And of course, as far as the government is concerned, the government has quite clearly outlined the path or the dream that all of us should see. How should we, or what changes should we actually bring into our businesses or mindset to be able to achieve this huge sort of goal that has been set by the government?
I think first is belief, that we need to start believing that it is possible. That middle income country, top 25 economy in the world, I feel that, if one aims high, I think then everything becomes very much possible. So I feel that once Bangladesh starts believing that it's possible to take the country forward, and if we can start making a business plan that this is how we feel we can do it, this is how we want to bring in changes in our manufacturing base. If Germany can be the #1 exporter in the world, why can Bangladesh not be one? If Netherlands can be the largest agriculture exporter in the world, why Bangladesh can't be one? So I think once we start believing it, and once everybody starts believing it, I think it will be much easier for start replicating it everywhere. Like say the footwear industry, Nasim bhai will lead, I'm sure. Garments industry, some people will lead. I see our friends from BRAC sitting there, so I'm sure BRAC will be our leading NGO for the world. I feel, that many, and of course, the number of professionals sitting in this room, I feel that we professionals will start leading the world, and we have to keep on challenging ourselves. That we have to say that we Bangladeshi professionals have to be the best professional in the world. If Indians can start leading all the big multinationals of the world, Bangladeshis can also do this. And once we start challenging ourselves that, sorry, it is not acceptable to perform at a very low level, we have to perform at a higher level, I think the speed of the country will start accelerating. And I think it will not be only a political desire that we want to be a middle-income country. It will become a desire for the nation. that we'll start imagining ourselves to be not at the bottom, but start at the top. That's how we're going to change.
Yeah, but every single day in the media comes up and tells us we can do absolutely nothing. I mean, that is what I hear. How do you actually answer to that? Nasim wants to answer to that. Yeah.
No, I think you're right. I mean, we are also involved in media, so I'll try and answer that. I think, bad news sells, and we know that. But I think, to pick up where Bijoy said, Bangladesh has a great product, and with deepest respect, sir, the lousiest marketing. And we have neighbors who have a lousy product and tremendous marketing. And I think this is where we need to fix this. I'm going to tell you 3 quick anecdotes. I've been working here in Bangladesh for 31 years. So obviously, I'm as old as I look. And the point is, there are 3 amazing stories that I think, again, stories that we don't tell. One, a young lady that I started work with, her name is Najma Begum. When I was a production trainee in Apex Footwear in Ghazipur, she joined in the cutting department. She got elected as a Union Parishad member. Okay, so she is now our elected representative of Bangladesh. That never makes the news. I sent it to one of the largest circulation papers in Bangladesh. They didn't even bother to print it. So that's number 1. Number 2, we decided to take one of our brands online in Amazon, direct to consumer, right? Bangladeshi brand on Amazon. We looked around the world to find who can take us there. We found a tech company in Rajshahi. I own no shares in this company. I'm not plugging them. They're called Tech Rajshahi. The father is a mango farmer. This young man sits in Rajshahi. He employs 200 people. He sits in an IT park in Rajshahi. He cannot be bothered to come to Dhaka. If I need to talk to him, I need to get a Zoom call in Rajshahi. He's taken our brand on Amazon. He bills $30 million a year of revenues from his clients. Third story, Bangladesh, not only, and coming to the shoe story, we sell and export Steve Maddens, and we import the Steve Maddens and sell them in our store. You show me another country that does this other than China. So this is the stories that don't get told. So the media will sell what we feed them. But we also, as I said, the glass half empty, half full. I think the time has come for Bangladesh, as Sunny said, to punch above our weight. We are way too reticent about what we can do. If India, and coming up to his point, if India can have 20% of Fortune 100 company CEOs, we've seen in Bangladesh now, all the MNCs are Bangladeshi CEOs. This needs to be told, that Bangladesh has the intellectual capability to punch above its class. Bangladesh has a market that you all want and need. You come here because you want my market. You come here because you want our growth. You show me another market that's growing at this rate, you will struggle. So I think this is where we've been very poor at marketing the product, but now the narrative's about to change.
Yeah, I think it's very valid because this is something which is even a couple of years back. In fact, in 2019, the Japanese were looking at some of their industry and they were looking at people who would actually be able to service them. And the report that I read said that India is one particular nation who can sell themselves better than any other nation on earth. They did not say market though, sell themselves. But there was another perspective which came up, and which was, but if you look into the human dimension of it, probably Bangladesh can beat many nations in that particular area. So that human dimension of it is something that we need to revisit. Bijoy, these two were talking about Sunny and him, they were talking about a new narrative. What could be this new narrative for Bangladesh?
I think I've shared mine.
Please.
Yeah, what I actually mentioned earlier, that is the best.
No, but do we really need to have a new narrative, or is it all right with whatever we have right now? That is basically what I would like to add.
I don't think we have a very clear narrative now. Right. So, I mean, if you ask anyone, they will have probably different stories, right? So I think there is there is a merit of having something which covers most of it. You will never be able to cover all, but the underlying spirit needs to be captured, right? I think clearly the country has a very resilient population. I think it needs to be more positive. I think the attitude that Sunny talked about, the positive attitude, there are so many good stories that we have. It's not only concentrated in the urban areas, it's not in only the known factors. I've been to Nilphamari. I'm sure many of you have seen this. The EPZ in Nilphamari is a revelation to me. We have a trade booth there. There is, it's a place which used to be known for manga 20 years back. If someone had told me 20 years back, this is going to be the Nilphamari 20 years from then, I would not have believed it. there are roads which are better than Dhaka's roads. There's one factory with 14,000 workers, 2,000 bikes on the parking lot. 90% of those are driven by women. You don't know that. I mean, so unless you be there, right? So I think there is a lot of stories which are still not told in the world, and we need to really be able to tell in a balanced manner. I'm not saying that everything is good, and if everything is good, the returns will be lower. I mean, it's always the risk reward, right? So I think this market clearly offers a significantly better returns because of these inefficiencies. But over time, we'll have to work on these inefficiencies, the keys that we talk about, right? The knowledge, the efficiency, execution. Then we talk about the diversity and sustainability. All these are important for us to take into consideration for going to the next. Country has definitely done really well in the last 50 years. But what got us here will not going to take us in the next level, right? If you want to achieve 2041, the history will not help us to take us where we need to be. And if you have seen from 8 billion to 320, or if you take the rebase $450 billion, and if you want to reach high income status by 2041, we have to reach $3 trillion, which is almost 6 times in less than 20, or just about 20 years, right? So we really, and the world and the platform and the landscape is going to be very, very different, right? So we'll have to really reshape our thinking, revisit our strategy, how we can really be future fit and future ready.
Yeah, I think, well said. But again, there was an element of sort of doubt in your sort of voice. I don't know whether it was there or not, but that's what I heard. That whether we will be able to do it or not. Lest we forget that 2 greatest rivers on earth flow through Bangladesh. We are the largest delta in the world. And there is absolutely no doubt. It's not just, again, that is something which is given. We are at the heart of China and India, which many of us call Chindia. So that is also something we have to take advantage of. So why this skepticism?
Actually, it's not skepticism. It's about realization that, we definitely have the confidence that we can do it. There are precedents in the world that has done it, like China itself has done it from 1997 to 2021. In 24 years, they have grown by 12 times. So we are talking about 6 times from 2025 to 41, right? So it's possible, but if we do not embrace and if we leave on the past, it's not going to help us. Yeah. So I think it's important to be innovative. We need to invest time and energy and resource to be forward-looking. We learn from the past. We learn from our failures and successes, but we need to really look forward for actually taking innovative approach.
Yeah. So what is being said is, if I hear you loud and clear, that of course history is important, but don't just be carried away by the history that you have. We have to do quite a lot. But again, let us also remind ourselves of the fact that last 10 years, the cumulative growth of this particular country has been #1 in the world. So there's no reason for us to believe otherwise as well. So, but as you very rightly said, we need to do certain things. I'll start with you, Sunny. What are the things, if we were to set priority 1, 2, 3, what are the things that we should do to be able to achieve the agenda that has been set, 2041 and of course 2100?
I would say, I would answer it in 2 ways. Like say one is role of the government, or role of the private sector. I feel that, like say I will leave the role of the government separate because I'm not from the government, I'm from PRAN, and that's what I want to talk about. I feel that, like say how you graduate from a $40 billion export economy to a $400 billion economy or a $1 trillion economy is just make an Excel sheet. If you can see that your business can grow 1 to 100 over a period of next 5 years, yes, it's possible. And I feel that it's the private sector that is going to make it possible. And I want to tell you that there are a lot of things that Bangladesh has not seen yet. Like say that if you look at the district town, if you look at all the towns that we have in the northern part of the country and the southern part of the country, all the divisions that we have in Russia division, Rangpur division, and also from Khulna area, and Borishal, of course, there is nothing that is happening in those divisions for export. I feel that once you start transferring or once you start this positive vibe is so strong that it will keep on, encouraging one another. It will be one apex that will start inspiring another 1,000 apex of this country to start producing shoes. And Nasim bhai will tell you that there is enough potential of the shoes, business of the world, that can really grow our business manifold. And I feel that Bangladeshis have that entrepreneurial spirit. And I feel that if we can grow from our private sector, I think it becomes very easy. So if you ask me that what could be the one from the private sector, I would strongly believe it's your mindset. If the mindset believes that it is possible, we are going to make it possible. And I feel that, say from the government side, there could be 1,001 things that one can talk about. But I feel that it's not important. I feel what is important is we as the private sector, do we see our businesses growing from 1 to 100? Those are the businesses that we are looking for. And every day, I see businesses transforming. We have to just go 5 kilometers ahead, see all the garments industry that are running today. Just ask yourself, where were these garments industries 10 years ago? What were their business 10 years ago, and see what it's today? And I think the answer will be very clear, that I feel that if the private sector starts believing it, and we all start working towards it, I think it can happen.
But what are your expectations from the government to be able to achieve what you're aspiring for?
I feel that, again, believing on the private sector, just try to listen to us more, what needs to be done. Don't take it negatively. Whatever we say, that take it positively, because we are as patriotic as somebody in the government is. So, if Nasim bhai has spent 31 years in Bangladesh, growing the private sector in the country, and, if Sir Fazli Hassan Abed has spent his entire life growing this nation, I think we have got all a same role to play. And I think the government has to start believing that all our Bangladeshis, we are all working to grow this country further. And I feel that if government starts believing, taking us positively, I think it will start happening. We can build our infrastructure, we can build our ports. And I feel that every Bangladeshis, everyone's comments counts. That how we are going to change our cities, how we are going to change our mohallas, how we are going to make our Wasa to be performing better. Everything will come. And I think that everything will be very positive. Media will start portraying a very positive image of the country. We'll be very constructive in how we say our negative things, so that it really does not alienate anybody. And I think it's the positive vibe that is going to create that will delete all the negative vibe in the country.
Nasim?
I think I would look at it from 3 points of view, three pillars rather. I think the first thing was picking up on your point about, do we forget the history? Do we use the history? How do we use the history? And I think this is what Ezaz was trying to say as well. I think we need to also be proud of the history. I mean, in the 1950s, Indonesians, this I've heard from my father and people from that generation, Indonesians used to come to Bangladesh to learn productivity in the textile mills. You know that, sir. Okay? We've had a trip. If you look at any research paper, you see the contribution of, at that time, East Pakistan to the entire GDP of Pakistan. We contributed the bulk of the foreign exchange, we were the bulk of the manufacturing, and we're the bulk of the exports. So we are not new to the manufacturing gig. We have a long history of making things. We need to own that, we need to recreate that, but we need to take it to the next level. So I think that would be my first, that we have a history that we need to tell. You were talking about, taking charge or taking ownership back of muslin. These are the traditions that we need to tell. The second part, I think expectations from government that my friend Sunny was talking about. Yes, I think one of the things I would request very humbly but very strongly to government officials in general is that stop distrusting the private sector. Okay, we are not all out there to hustle and just steal and not pay taxes and run away. We don't all want to go to Canada. We're still here. So my point is, we are here, we're investing, we're paying our taxes. I'm as patriotic as you are, and I challenge you on it. So stop harassing people who want to get ahead and do something good, because that's a major detriment. We see at the highest level, tremendous vision. Implementation leaves a lot to be desired. Now, that cannot be a reason to shoot me when I talk about this. So you've got to change that attitude. Constructive criticism, as my friend Sunny said, he's more diplomatic than I am. That's probably why you're also 10 times bigger than I am. But the point is, it has to be said. We need your trust. You need to believe in us, because we want to do good for our people, for our country. The third part of it, I think, is I'm a little bit skeptical of growth. And I know that Tamara and Asif are much more qualified to talk about this than I think we need to talk also about sustainable book. Yeah. And sustainable is no longer just about a few green buildings here and there, of which we are very proud. Equality, equity, inclusiveness, distribution of wealth. Once again, Bangladesh has done a tremendous job. But we need to talk about the quality of growth. I'm very, very proud that Bangladesh is being recognized for our achievements in the sustainable development field, but a lot more needs to be done. We have the highest number of green factories for export. I would like to see the highest number of green factories for our domestic industry. I would like to see more inclusivity. I would like to see more tolerance. I would like to see more room for sustainable practices in business. So this is something, the quality of growth discussion needs to happen now. Because the old model of let's grow and then worry about the planet later, I don't think we believe in that. And we cannot, because we are a tiny country, we are deltaic, and we are densely populated. Last but not least, I think the skill sets that we need, you asked me what is going to be needed, are completely changing. This is a gig economy. Two of my colleagues were yesterday at an institute here for the leather technology, talking about prospects in the industry, blah, blah, blah. So now we call ourselves the fashion industry and not the leather industry, because nobody wants to work for the leather industry, right? So we've repackaged ourselves. And the question from the audience was, why do you need to work for 6 days? We want to work in your factory, but you work for 5 days. Now this is the new reality, people, that we're dealing with 22-year-olds who don't want to even work for 6 days. I grew up working for 7 days. So I think this is the new reality that we need to adjust to. Don't shoot the messenger. Listen to what they have to say. Can we become more productive in 5 days? Do the work of 6 and 5? We need to see where we can get. Last but not least, your favorite topic, sir, branding. And I've said this before, so some of you may have heard me, so forgive me if I'm repeating. I love the Korean example of what they did with soft power. And I think this is where I see Prima here, she's doing a great job on this. Soft power, we are so poor selling what we have, right? I mean, look what Korea did with kimchi and K-pop. It's ridiculous, right? I mean, K-pop is a power beyond just the English-speaking world. So I have the 4 Bs of Bangladesh, and I'm going to settle no charge to Brand Forum. I think first, you've got Bengali, you've got Bangla. Very few countries that have given blood for a language. Yesterday I was talking to an Englishman and he was saying, Nasim, I go to Khulna airport, man, the pride that people have in Bangladesh, I don't see this in Europe anymore. Sunny travels the country, I travel a little bit across the country. He said, I was in Khulna airport and 4 people wanted to take a picture of me, the guards at the airport. Do you like Bangladesh? How do you like Bangladesh? Let me take a selfie. This pride of Bangladesh, this is something we need to harness. Second, build it in Bangladesh. Of course, I'm sounding like a broken record. You see how old I am talking about records. But this is what it is. You can build things here. Whether it's boats, ships, the world's biggest NGO, one of the biggest agro brands in the world, inshallah. This is what you can do. You can build things here. Third, bhorta. If they can have kimchi, we have bhorta. And then last, of course, is baul. They got K-pop, we've got baul. So these are my 4 Bs for Bangladesh. I think we need to brand this. Thank you.
So you cannot get rid of history or culture. Naser, you better start rethinking in terms of what should be done. But from the multinational perspective, I mean, this is all well said. These are unique things. Mind it, there was a survey done recently in the West, particularly in the cuisine sector. And they were talking about which country has what particular cuisine. Do you know what came in for Bangladesh? It was not bhorta. Absolutely. No, very interestingly, biryani. And when they were saying, they went into the detail, the depth of it, but we have biryanis in Hyderabad. Those are much more popular. And they said, no. You don't have kachi biryani. Nowhere on earth. So the cuisine, the cooking, that particular dimension of it, we don't even talk about it. It's very rightly said. We don't talk about the language perspective of it in a different way. So those are certain things we need to talk about. And you'll be glad to know that recently the government of Bangladesh, particularly the Ministry of Education, has very clearly stressed upon these soft areas to be incorporated within the curriculum of even the tertiary education. So this is something that the discussion has already started to happen. Naser, to you. How can we bring in more money, more investment?
Thanks. I think 4 things that I would like to talk about is that in terms of our attitude, right? So I think it's very important to have this positive attitude. Imagine what we have achieved in the last 12 years or so despite being, 167 out of 189 ease of doing business index. So if we can achieve those, despite all these challenges, and if we can fix that, and we don't have to be number one, even if it's below 100, imagine the kind of prospects we have and the quantum of growth in the qualitative and quantitative manner that we can achieve. So that's clearly one clear area that we need to address. While the World Bank has discontinued, it doesn't mean that the need to have ease of doing business is going away, right? It's just an index that's going out. So MCCI actually launched an alternate index very timely, so which is going to be very helpful for our business community to do that. Second, I will talk about, I think it's important to learn from our failures. Because, you see that, every instance of failure is an opportunity to have a new beginning. It's not an end of a road. It's a new opportunity. So I think it's important to make mistakes, and only the athletes who actually fails know that how to go deep down to your spirit and take that extra ounce of energy to go the extra mile. So I think it's very important to learn from the mistakes and take that and convert this into energy. Thirdly, I think it's important to take risk at times, a calculated risk, but we need to take risk because if you more of doing the same things will not achieve extraordinary, things that we need to achieve. And lastly, I think it's important to remember that we often do kind of a self-destruction or self-sabotage in the sense that we are not being responsible in what we say without thinking of the consequences that it's going to bring to the country. It's not always about the mountain that makes you weary. It's about the people under your feet that actually helps you, rather drags your energy out, right? Because we often make comments without realizing the consequences that it will bring to our nation. So that's very important to be responsible. All these together and from the government perspective, I think it's important that I'll just add to what Nasim bhai mentioned, that the starting point should be from the position of trust. The policies should be not considering that everyone is going to abuse it. I think it should be with the trust that everyone is collectively trying to do the right thing. If there are exceptions, we deal with exceptions exceptionally. I think that's where my request will be. I know that I think the truth is in between because there are very good corporate citizens, there are those who are not. But I think it's important to drive the behavior by showing the benefit of becoming a good corporate citizen, not to penalize them.
I think just to add certain information, I don't even know if BRAC is aware of that or not. Recently, there was a study done in terms of the largest social enterprise on earth. BRAC is the largest social enterprise on earth. Not Tata, not any other company. So this is one particular story that all of us will have to understand. Sunny, good news for you. In 2019, and this was a study done in Mecca, you guys have beaten Haldiram on that particular category of fast food. So you have beaten that. So this is something that even you don't know. So in Mecca, Haldiram, you've beaten Haldiram in Mecca. They were number one, but you've beaten them.
Okay.
These guys. So these are certain information that all of us must understand that these are happening. And I'm wearing this shoe and this is very serious note. I've been wearing this shoe for God only knows how many years. Every time I go out, I love this shoe. And my friends abroad tell me, how many pairs do you have? I said, only one. And this was made by this particular guy on my right. That is what they make. These are examples that we have. On top of that, the emotions that we have. Naser knows that why I bank with Standard Chartered, because of emotions. And this emotion is very strong amongst us. And you know what is the reason? The reason is density. The reason is we are always close. We are always in close proximity. We know each other more than anyone else does. And there is no second nation with such a large population and with the density that we have. So these are the positives that we have to undertake. And these are realities that we have and which makes us so unique. So I'll end up with the last question to all three of you. How can we have a stronger linkages with our diaspora? Any one of you can take. With the diaspora in particular, because we know China has prospered through this particular linkage. India has done that as well. And people come up and complain that we don't do it the way they've done it. So what should we do and how can we do that?
I think we need to understand the importance of the diaspora. Like say, I think to recognize the people, I feel that, we could go and step outside Bangladesh. It is because of the Bangladeshi diaspora that was working in the GCC countries, all over the Gulf. It's 10% of the population of Bangladesh living in the GCC. I think it's because of them. And I think, like say, as a nation, I don't think we tend to recognize these people, enough. I feel that once we start recognizing, once we start connecting, and once we start saying that you are Bangladeshis staying from us 1,000 miles away, but you also have a role to play for this country. I think that particular thing that, Bangladeshis have done very well when it calls for playing your own responsibility or fulfilling your responsibility to your motherland. And I think that concept of patriotism still remains among Bangladeshis. Whether it's a dokandar who we go and sell products to in the Gulf country or in Saudi Arabia or in anywhere in the world, or whether it's a doctor sitting there in Florida who is trying to treat a Bangladeshi patient, I feel that concept that you also can play a role. And then people start recognizing that, yes, rather than saying negative about my country and what wrong things are we facing due to traffic or the pollution and other things, I feel that we all have a role to play. And I feel that how we connect, and I feel that 10% of the population of Bangladesh living outside Bangladesh, if you are able to connect, if you are able to recognize, if you feel that this is your responsibility to come and play your role, I feel that you will find them to be playing a very active role for the growth and development of this nation.
Yeah, I think I'd like to add to that. I think very recently, I think less than 2 weeks ago, the chairman of Intel Corporation was in Dhaka. And how many of us even know this? And how many of us know that he's actually Bangladeshi? And he's a poet. Exactly. And I actually sent a message that, again, this is where the business community has to take flack. We've been celebrating 50 years of Bangladesh, all chambers doing many things. None of us even bothered to even recognize the fact that the chairman of Intel is in Bangladesh. Why didn't we have a session like this? I mean, surely we could have learned something from him, right? So I think we, as a nation, I think Sunny is right, we haven't really connected, we haven't gone out. We need to identify them and find out where they are. The second part of it is, I think, as we start to tell a better story about Bangladesh, I think, we tend to get a little defensive. Whenever Bangladesh is criticized, we get defensive, or we go the other extreme. It's all bad. It's horrible. How soon can I get my Canadian passport or my Australian passport? I think somewhere in the middle has to be that middle ground. That, no, there's a lot happening, and you can help contribute. If you look at, I'll give you one final example. The young man who represents us in Japan is a Bangladeshi. His name is Fatemi, of course. He's a graduate of Tokyo University. He speaks perfect Japanese, perfect Bangla, of course, and he's married to a Japanese. He's the only non-Japanese who's licensed drone operator in Tokyo. Wow. All right, now, we found this guy completely by accident because of an interpreter on one of our business trips. One of my colleagues found him. He now represents Apex in Japan, and he brought us into the largest retailer of footwear in Japan. Now, he never wanted to come to Bangladesh because he had bad experiences. We always wanted to avoid Bangladeshis because he said, oh, they don't know the business. I think PRAN has shown the way of harnessing the power of these people. But there has to be a telling of a positive story. Too many NRBs have come to Bangladesh and suffered, where they have not been treated right, they have invested, they haven't gotten right returns, or they haven't been valued. So I think things are changing, and I think corporates like PRAN and Square and ACI, we know huge things happening in the FDA space, sir, for example, where pharmaceutical companies are bringing in Bangladeshis who work in FDA on a purely professional consultancy level, telling us how we can become FDA compliant. Indians have been doing this for 3 decades now, 30 years. We catch up fast. So I think the time is now. It's not just Silicon Valley. I see Anik here. That's doing well. But we also have opportunities in manufacturing, in services, and in general trade. Massive, massive people doing amazing work. So the day is not far. I think when we will see, as Sanya and I both believe, that global CEOs like Naser, Bijoy will not only head Bangladesh, will head the group. And I think the day is not far. Thank you.
Naser?
I mean, it's difficult. Sorry. So it's difficult to actually, it's one way difficult to say after what, after Nasim Bhai always, he's so eloquent. But on the other side, it's, they have covered most of the areas, so I don't need to add much. But I think one of the important points is to be being responsible as a citizen, whether you're in Bangladesh or wherever you are, you need to remember your word matters. So if you say something responsibly, making a comment generalized, that doesn't help the country. So I think it's important that we take ownership of what we do, what we say, so that it helps the country. I think I don't see Sharif. Actually, MOFA is working on bringing the foreign remittance, home remittances from $20-odd billion to $100 billion. And there are definitely a strong requirement of the engagement from the missions outside the country. I think maybe it's important that we should work together also, because it has to be on a collaborative basis. It cannot be one stakeholder doing everything. So public sector, private sector, and the diasporas, all together we need to really reach out. And I don't see if there are benefits, which is a win-win proposition, why would we not be able to realize the potential that we have? So I think let's work on that. I represent Foreign Investor Chamber of Commerce as well, so I will be more than happy to work with Brand Forum and any other stakeholders who are interested to work on this to reach out to the nation, because we have missions which can do more than what they have done so far.
Yeah, great. Just for sort of information for you all, for all three of you, and of course the audience here as well, the government now has scholarship funds for PhD students, which you guys can take advantage of. Give us some research agenda, which we can actually, and these PhD students are working not here, they're working in the top universities across the world. So that is one particular advantage that we can take, linking academia with the industry directly. So these are certain things that we have to do. Of course, media has a very important role to play, and we need to work on that as well. And I'm sure Sharif has been trying quite a lot in that direction. I'm not sure if he has been successful to what extent. But as you were saying, rightly, we've got to take the responsibility. We've got to be very, very responsible now to take the nation forward. Gentlemen, thank you so very much for being with us and, of course, enlightening us with your thoughts and, of course, knowledge. And I'm sure that in the years to come, you will be the largest fashion wear, is it? Or footwear, fashion footwear manufacturer in the world. And you will be the largest in this particular part of the world, in the world as well. And we're looking forward to that. And Naser, inshallah, we'll see that, not 100 years, you'll celebrate your 200 years here in Bangladesh. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you again, Brand Forum. Let's give a big round of applause for the three. Thank you so very much.
And here our panel discussion ends. Thanks to our respected moderator and honorable panelists for your valuable contribution.